Hey folks, Matt Lange here. Over at Avid, we just released our new Sonic Drop, which is called Pro Sound Effects Cinematic Selects, which is a selection of 100 samples of sound effects from Pro Sound Effects. And as opposed to using sound effects in the traditional way of using them as an effect, I'm going to show you a couple ways to use it in a more non-traditional way, and we're going to make some beats out of sound effects. Check it out. So to do this, I'm going to be using Native Instruments Battery, and the main reason is that Battery, I think, in my personal opinion, is the best drum sampler out there, and also it is totally DAW agnostic, meaning that you could use this in Ableton Live, Logic, Pro Tools, Reaper, whatever. So here's Battery, and these are all of the sound effects that come in Pro Sound Effects Cinematic Selects, and I'm just going to pick a couple that I feel like will be good to chop up and use in this sampler. So let's just go through a few of them. So this one's going to be good for a kick drum. So first thing I'm going to do, now that I have this dragged in there, it's going to be at C0. I can play it on a keyboard if I want. I'm going to turn on our envelope. And I'm going to set it to ADSR mode because I want it to hold out as long as I hold the key. I'm going to set my sustain all the way up to 0, make my release nice and short. And now I'm going to go into the sample itself, and I'm just going to find where the actual hit is. And that looks like it's about there. But let's just zoom in a little bit. That's right. There we go. So to make a kick out of it, I mean, we already could theoretically just use it as a kick, but let's be a little more interesting and a little bit more creative with this. So we are going to go to our effects. We're going to take a filter. I'm going to say a 4-pole ladder filter. Why not? And make it nice and low. That's got some rumble. I like that. Now I'm going to go to my modulation section. And in my modulation matrix, I'm going to set my modulation envelope to actually control the filter cutoff. I'm going to set it maybe just about there. Also sustain all the way down to 0, release basically 0. And decay is going to really determine how quickly it clamps down on the high end. And also let's make sure that there is 0 attack. So that sounds pretty good to me already. Now we can make a snare out of this same sample. Let's just copy it over. So now C#, that's our next one. And first, let's do the same kind of trick with the modulation envelope, but let's make a longer decay. And let's pitch it up a bit. And then if we go back to our main page, let's just take a little bit of this high pass filter. So that already is the basis of a kick and a snare. And let's make a hi-hat too. So once again, I'm going to take that same sample, and this time I'm really going to take the high end or the low end out of it. Nice big high pass. And let's turn up the compressor a ton. And let's boost the level a bit. Now, on this, there are different ways you could do this, and none of it's the wrong way. It's really up to taste. I am going to take off that filter because I don't need that anymore. So let's go back to my modulation matrix, and I'm just going to get rid of this. I just basically turn it all the way down. And I'll also go to my effect, turn off my filter. So now, so I could have it nice and short, but if I hold it out, it's almost like an open hi-hat. And let's make a couple little bits of percussion too. Let's find some, what's this? Junkyard scraps. Or junkyard something scrapes. Alright, so that has some stuff at the end that's pretty interesting. Right around there. So I'm just going to go searching for it. And once again, go back to my envelope. Same deal as before. ADSR. Sustain all the way up. Minimal release. Let's make it nice and loud. Let's just scroll around a little bit. Right in there. And now, because this does have like some stuff at the end I don't want, I'm going to bring the end of the sample there. And I'm also then going to bring down the sustain a bit. And let's bring up the compressor also. There's a little bit of a click, so the attack will get rid of that. And we can even pitch it down. We need a shorter decay. And let's find some other stuff. What's Foley metal? This is great. So, now you can see we have so much material in here to play with, and I love this kind of stuff. So, ADSR, once again, same trick as before. But this time, you know what? Let's do a really short decay again. And let's just scroll through and find a piece we like. That could be a hi-hat right there. And let's copy it over. We'll have another variation. Compressor. Maybe tone it down and see what happens. And let's take one more variation. And over here, and now, just to give this a little bit more character, I'm going to go into our modulation again, but this time I'm going to choose random unipolar. And that means every time we hit the key, it's randomly just a little bit, always going to push a little bit more or less into the file. And then we just set the sample start to be the destination. And we want a pretty little amount because it's a pretty big file. But you can see as I'm retriggering it, it's moving around a little bit. So that just gives us a little bit of variation. That'll work. And let's just go back into our effects. Let's actually compress it again because it is a kind of quiet thing. We really want to drive this. So bring the threshold down. That's a fine ratio. Bring the output up. Maybe saturate it a bit too. Really just killing the compressor now. And there is a little bit of a click, so let's just get rid of that. And now let's just build a little beat out of it. So I'm just going to do this in MIDI. Let's first find our alternating hi-hat percussion thing, which is that. So let's make eighth notes of this. So eighth note sounds like this. Now let's go to our kick. That would be C1. And remember, our kick's length will be determined by how quick the note or how short the note is. So we could have a lot of variation just in the weight of the kick by doing something like that. Let's take our little snare. Just let's say put that at 2 and 4. Now it sounds like this. All right, so let's make the release of the kick a little bit longer. Now let's add some other elements in here. Let's take this little percussion hit, throw that right there. And we have this percussion stuff here. And we have one more hit. Oh, the open hi-hat, right. So let's try this. And let's make a variation. And let's take that hi-hat, nice high one. Make it nice and short. And let's do some 30-second notes just because they are fun. And maybe we'll put a 64th, a group of 64th notes right here. And now let's just add a couple other little fills. So on this last hit, we'll have that. And what other little patterns can we add in here? It's nice to play with velocity. So for instance, we could do 64th notes here over the course of an 8th note that ramp up in velocity. And also, let's just see how this sounds if we swing it. So we just have to find all the 16th notes. Let's quantize it. Let's just do Logic C. I always tend to like. So we just apply the swing. And now with some swing, here is our beat. So this is just a fun and easy way to get creative with drums, and you can do it with, really theoretically you do it with any sampler, but Battery, and I'm sure the Drum Rack in Ableton can do something similar. It just gives you so many options because you have individual effects per actual cell, if you will, or slot, sample slot. So it's a ton of fun. If you like the sounds in here, check out the new Sonic Drop from Pro Sound Effects and, of course, us at Avid and Pro Tools. And it's called the Pro Sound Effects Cinematic Selects, and it's 100 samples of really cool things, everything from Foley to booms and whooshes and wind sounds and ambiences, all sorts of cool stuff. Check it out and then turn it into making some weird, funky beats.